Welcome to the Coming Clean podcast with your host, Peter O. Estevez.
Hit a dash in my position, you will never last. Real talk, I had to get it from the mall. Real talk, now I'm vibing with a bankroll. Cash.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Coming Clean podcast. Today we have an incredible guest, Shira Lazar, the founder and CEO of Emmy Nominated digital media brand What is Trending, and also the host of the afternoon drive show, Let's Go There, that features weekdays on LGBTQ channel Q. Hello, Shira. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me. You are also an entrepreneur, and you actually came into the media space through traditional media.
Yeah, it's funny because people think that. I guess it's more like I always had a foot in traditional media. I actually never felt fully accepted by traditional media. I would have meetings and interviews and auditions to be on camera for a lot of projects, and I would either never get those jobs or I would get a job and then be quickly fired from the jobs. And so I always fell back into just creating my own projects and really connecting with entrepreneurs and founders to figure out how I could bring my expertise to what they were doing. And so I really built this, I guess you could say, career or work that was at the intersection of both worlds of media, entrepreneurship, and tech. But it wasn't just tech. It was more like the tech community, I guess.
Yeah, but you also, there was a while there, because I remember very early on, you were doing some blogging or some reporting, for lack of a better word, for CBS, weren't you?
Yeah, so I guess you could.
Bloggers.
Yeah, so I guess you could say that was traditional. But at that time, I was doing a lot of interviews and video blogs on my phone, which now is totally normal. Back then, me going up to someone to talk to them with my phone was like really strange. They're like, "What is this? I could do a video with this? Like what?" Like it was very much like alien, right? Like foreign to people, which is funny because only a few years later, it's so normal. And if anything, we're annoyed by it. But at the time I started doing that on my own. And then when I realized there was something special there that could be possibly something for work, I started approaching all the news organizations because I wanted to legitimize that way of doing it. And I went to my agent and I said, find me an organization, a news organization where I can do this work. It wasn't like there was a job opening. And I heard a lot of no's. I mean, basically everyone said no to me, or it's not no. They just were like, I love her. I love what she's up to, but like, we don't really have anything here. There's not really a fit. And then finally at CBS News, one of the bosses over there had been at CNET. So he understood what I was doing. He got me. And so he gave me a chance to do it. And I at the time, I didn't really need a lot of money. I was like, I just want to prove that there's something here. Give me the platform to prove that there's something. He paid me a bit. And then I went from there. And yeah, you could say that definitely legitimized it, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And then from there, that's how What's Trending, my company, came to be. And we originally did launch it with CBS News. I think that when you partner with big organizations, there's a lot of possibilities and wins because it does give you a lot of credibility and it takes it to the next level very quickly, which we all deserve. And good ideas get seen. Why not? But then the minute you make a mistake, you can get pushed off that cliff just as quickly as you got on. So like that's the the idea of thinking big with whatever you're doing. That there's a lot to gain, but there's a lot to lose in doing that. And I think I've always, I've rode that wave in many ways, and I've fallen many times. I mean, CBS News, after we launched What's Trending, we had a billboard. It was like we were having meetings to sign another 7-figure deal. And then overnight, the whole thing collapsed and I got publicly fired. So that was fun.
Why did it collapse? Can you talk about that?
Someone tweeted that Steve Jobs died because I heard something in the newsroom at the time and I was going into a meeting. So I told my editor at the time, who I assumed knew the ways, the best practices where you actually verify something before you post it. And instead she literally just posted it and then came in and told me she had posted it and then I was like, well, it's not true. It didn't happen. There's nothing that's verifying it. No one has confirmed it, but she had already posted it. And so the whole thing fell apart from there. And because I was at the helm of it, I was thrown under the bus and I took the grunt of that loss. And it is what it is. And I could have fought it. I mean, I tried to, and I could have tried to drag her with me, I guess. And, there was a big personal growth process that I went through of the resentment I had around that this person stayed on board and continued to be employed by CBS News for many years and continues to work in this arena. And I had to let go of that and say it happened. And I got to learn a lot from that. But of course I could have held on to that and like really let it build up in me and bury me alive, really, because that's what negativity does. And I decided to not do that. And I decided to let it go and say it happened. And what's the gift here?
So tell us, where's what's trending today? What is it? What do you do? And where is your company?
So What's Trending is a digital media brand that covers social culture, what's trending on social media, the news, the views, and very much so these celebrities and influencers and talent in that space. So really what inspired it was the fact that I loved covering stories around these viral video stars. And I felt like no one was doing it at the time. And I wanted an editorial platform that could do that. And so I created What's Trending to be that. And of course, now I think everyone does it. It's like now more mainstream, but still, I believe What's Trending is really at the forefront, continues to be around covering this type of culture. And people go to us because they trust that we know what's up. And so right now we have our YouTube channel. We have all, obviously all over social media. We do short form news reports around What's Trending. And we are on gas stations and movie theaters. I like to say I want people to serendipitously bump into us wherever they are and to be relevant in that way.
So tell me, what is happening today with viral video stars? Are they as popular as they used to be? I have seen over the period of COVID more than anything.
Yeah.
I have seen an overabundance of traditional actors and actresses and stars. They had basically blasted the space.
Yeah, I think that we're in a time now because our worlds and our economies are falling apart. A lot of people that, who got jobs in one way before this time are now trying to be innovative. And that means like taking their life into their hands. And that means doing it yourself, the DIY mentality. And I think a lot of creators and social media stars came up in that way, but obviously traditional talent didn't. But they're seeing like, well, I want to continue working on my craft. I want to continue getting paid. I see the importance of having a following in a community. So I don't need to rely on these traditional systems. And so like, we saw it with, what's his name? John Krasinski with Good News, and that got bought by Viacom. We see it with so many people. And I just think they're now finally maybe taking it seriously because they see how important it is to like do your own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ellen has done an incredible job doing that crossover.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ellen has been doing that forever. I think she was smart because she came up at a time where it was obvious that she needed to do that, same as all the late night shows, even though they came a bit later. But Ellen was always really good at that, and it's not her personally. I mean, she had a smart team. They were smart. I give credit to also Telepictures, the company that runs Ellen. They have a whole digital division that they've been really good at investing in digital properties from the beginning. So it just was like, I think it was a fortunate set of circumstances that she was able to jump in on that. And also because if you think about the moments that worked well for her, it's like, people connect her, at least they did. I don't know if you know all the controversy surrounding the show right now, how she created a toxic work culture and everything.
No,
but
I
they
don't.
associated,
Tell us about it.
Yeah, but they associated with her like her dancing and like fun moments, and she was Ellen, right? She made everyone happy.
Sure.
So with that, you could say there's like that can support a lot of virality, whether it be the guest she has on or what she shares on her social. And then also, just one more thing. And with her, she was smart in terms of the viral stars she would find. She would do contracts with them to do digital series. That was smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you see digital marketing going today? I mean, we see somebody like Gary Vee that has profited tremendously from it. He's become a household name with millions of followers in every platform. You know, I mean, he jumps on TikTok, he jumps on YouTube. I mean, he's everywhere. So where do you see that space going?
I mean, if TikTok can stay alive in the US, probably. I mean, I was on Musical.ly before it was TikTok, and you know, What's Trending has over 1 million followers there. I have, you know, over 600,000. So I was very passionate, and I still am, but I really fought hard for that platform even before it was TikTok. And I loved the community, and I loved how it wasn't quote unquote easy. You still have to do the work, but it was easy to get discovered. There was a sense of like, you never know. So you're going to put in the effort. My hope is that they create some sort of monetization, because it does get old, continue putting effort into something where you're not gaining anything back. I mean, that is the definition of burnout.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you got millions of followers, but you're not monetizing.
Exactly. And that it doesn't create a sustainable space or environment for the creator culture. The reason why YouTube did so well way back when is because they created a win-win. They created a way for creators to monetize. Now that has changed, which is why there's also such a toxic, dysfunctional relationship between creators and the platform. So you would think, after seeing how YouTube did it back in the day and how it created this whole phenomenon of these social media stars, that was really the first. It was from YouTube, right?
Absolutely.
You would think after that, someone would go, wow, they did it right. Why don't we just try that out? And I think we've got, the platforms have gotten too greedy, and then they know they can get people to create content without giving them anything back. And I just don't think that is right. Of course you could do anything you want to if you own the platform, but like, it's a choice of what you're going to decide, like you're going to represent to an entire community. So it's like, and I feel like that's more of a long-term thinking.
Sure. Now, let me ask you a question. When you,
I didn't really answer your question, but I mean, I think but I did kind of like digital marketing is focusing on, you know, the people that are building your community, making sure they're happy, and making sure, obviously we need to like analytics. We need to make sure things can convert. But I do think TikTok has a big possibility. I think Facebook needs to build some more trust because they're connected to Instagram. Instagram still is like so key to so much, but they need people to have access to their audiences. This cutting off people's audiences, the algorithms, it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
I completely agree. When less than 20% of your posts are being seen by your followers, it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It demands a lot of work and continuous posting from an individual to be able to be viable in that platform.
And YouTube too. So it's like, do better. You have the money, do better. Put yourselves in the position of the people you want to create more. And just do that. It's not that difficult. And try to find a balance between making money and also making sure that people have incentive to be part of the community.
Well, in your opinion, why was it that they became so restrictive with the posts that are being seen or not being seen? What is the motive behind that? I
always think it's just money and who they want to, I guess, you know, float to the top. I think I don't know. I think that, well, it's all about, obviously, like keeping people on the platform, right? And engagement. And so they keep thinking that these changes will keep people engaged.
Well, you know, I can see.
More data, I guess. They'll get more data so they can sell it better to advertisers. And so advertisers can then buy more on the platform and make sure they're connecting to an audience.
Yeah, but there's only a handful of people that are really growing on those platforms. I mean, you're beginning to see, I mean, you have a Gary Vee, you have a Jay Shetty, you have a Lewis Howes, and they're great individuals. This is not a comment against them. This is just, you can see where the average individual, for lack of a better word, gets tapped out with the
yes. So this is the thing, is that's why TikTok, if they can figure out how to be more like TikTok, you could have stars or whatever is a star over there. And that's awesome, but new people can emerge more easily. And I think that, people function on hope. We need to feel like we have hope that we can get our message out.
Sure.
And if you're cutting people off at the knees and saying like, oh, well, you can look up to all these people, but these are the same people that are going to be blowing up on every place. And you're pretty much going to give them maybe a bit of a boost because they're credible and they want them to be there, obviously. But no one else can get any sort of boost. I mean, it definitely makes it like not aspirational anymore.
Sure. So let's talk about the current situation across the world. Let's talk about two things that are sensitive to all of us, which is COVID. Okay. And let's talk about Black Lives Matters. Which one do you want to take on first?
I talk about both every single day. So.
I know you do.
For the course.
I know you do, and you're very passionate about where are we going with COVID? What is happening? Is it going to be over after November 4th, or is this a real thing?
All right, so it depends on what somehow the current President Trump decides to do. Thing is, if he tries to somehow manipulate the situation, maybe he finds a vaccine, he tries to find all the answers, so then he looks like he's the hero in the end of all this mess. There's so many ways that we could go about it. I think that if we're smart, and a friend of mine talked about this, and there's been some experts that have said this, like shut down the entire country for 6 weeks, get this kind of out of our system so we can restart.
We did that March 15, March 13.
I know, but like then there was a lot of reopenings that happened really quickly with no sort of safety procedures in place. Every state was doing it differently. Some states were taking it seriously, some weren't. We still have a big debate about masks. I mean, we are not on one page. We do not have a common front here. And that is the issue, is that everyone is creating their own rules around this, and you can't create a solution when everyone is approaching things differently. And that's that. So I think that until we find some common ground and we have respect for one another, as it relates to this, I think that we will continue to go in an incessant loop, like we're a squirrel on a wheel, or a hamster on a squirrel, a hamster on a wheel. Like we will literally do the same thing and get the same results, and then we'll be like, why are we doing this? We'll go crazy, right? Like Einstein said, until we decide to pivot and do something different.
Sure, but if the president would have taken a position, and done it from a national level, from a presidential level, from an executive level, and would have called restrictions, done whatever, would he have gotten a worse rap than he's gotten right now? I mean, it doesn't. Not
if we had results. The thing is, you could do whatever you want to do, and people could, of course, judge you and argue with you and not approve of your actions. However, the results speak for themselves.
I agree.
That's it. So if we don't, it's not even political at this point. There's no results. It's a shit show. So like, once again, even if you hate Trump or whatever you like him, if he at least shown results based on his actions, decisions, people have been like, well, don't like him, but at least we're getting somewhere. But we're not getting anywhere.
No, I agree with you, but there's two different phenomena. I mean, there's the blue states and the red states, and the states, whoever they are.
And that's because we politicized all these things, social distancing, masks, like it's a Democrat thing. You're like, no, this is what experts are saying, no matter what side they're on. And we have this problem with trusting experts here. And that's because of the narrative that Trump has created, where from the beginning, no matter what we're talking about, he doesn't trust experts. And of course, then he blames it like, oh, Dr. Fauci said we didn't need masks. But it's like the minute Dr. Fauci said, no, this is real, like they've been clear at every point, WHO and Fauci at every point as they realize things, because this is unprecedented. They've expressed it and communicated it in real time. So you're going to use like an excuse just because they didn't say it at the beginning. That's not a good enough excuse for why we're in a crapshoot right now.
Agreed. So let's talk about the other issue, which is a very sensitive issue.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matters.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we move forward as a nation? How do we change the course of what's happened throughout history and not continue to see the discrimination, the mistreatment, the underrepresentation of really a culture, multiple cultures for that matter, that have been left behind.
We listen, and then we say, I'm not going to make a choice for you as to how I think the changes should be. I'm going to ask you, what do you think? Because this is your lived experience. And I'm going to, as an accomplice, comrade / ally, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to do whatever I can with my privilege and my expertise, my connections, to make sure that happens so you feel safe in the country that you live in and you feel seen and heard and respected and valued.
So how do we do that? How do I do that? How do you do that? What
I
role
mean,
do I take?
I don't know. I mean, voting, even though I can't vote because I'm Canadian, unfortunately,
Right.
which is like really sad as I preach all this stuff. But
No, but you're still in the country, right?
I know, and I pay taxes, and I use my voice, my platform. I do as much as I can. Besides that,
you an adopted
which I need to become a citizen. I don't even know how easy it is to become a citizen at this point right now.
At this point, probably not very easy.
I was looking into it before all this happened, and it was an easier path. But right now doesn't seem to be. So I think that voting, understanding why local voting is important, understanding why, obviously getting your voice heard in this next election is important, holding ourselves accountable and each other accountable, and really talking the talk and walking the walk. Just because you post something, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 but if behind the scenes you're not personifying that and really like living that to its fullest, if it's not represented in your actions, then it doesn't matter what you post and what you talk about publicly. It all doesn't matter. It's a domino effect. It's like, I believe in a 360 lifestyle. Do what you say, and do it even on the most private level. And that includes questioning yourself as you're alone with yourself, with your own thoughts. And that requires a ton of self-awareness.
No,
and it also requires education and listening and like checking yourself. I think we should be checking ourselves all the time around these issues. And part of that is, hopefully you've been educated to know enough of when you need to check yourself, but also means surrounding yourself by people of that experience. Like, ask yourself maybe why you don't have more Black friends. Ask yourself why you don't have more, whatever, like Asian friends, Latino friends, you know what I mean? Like, ask yourself these things, because you unfortunately, even though I don't think this is an excuse, you can't have perspective if you're just hanging around people that are like you. And if you are hanging around people like you, then you might ask yourself why. Why are you only hanging out with people like you? And can you really have an opinion on the matter that makes sense or is even realistic if you don't talk to other people?
Tell me about your list, 360 approach. What is it?
I mean, I just think that I used to, and I think that I would say things like about my value system and the things I wanted in the world in my life. And then I think that I would move that boundary or that goalpost or that bar, depending maybe on the situation of the people I was with. If I felt uncomfortable, maybe if I felt like I wasn't going to be heard, if I felt like it wasn't appropriate, it wasn't the right timing. But then it's like, you ask yourself, do you really truly believe those things in your heart of all hearts if you're not going to act during the most uncomfortable time? Like, how important are those things to you really?
Absolutely.
So that's come up, and that's huge. And it doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, but once again, as we see, do you think that dealing with racism every moment of your life is easy? And yet it's hard for me just to step up and speak for the things that are right.
Well, sometimes we need to have those uncomfortable conversations. I think we have lived in a society way too long where we have been put in boxes. This is a box, this is the gay box, this is this box, this is this box, this is this other box. And we've been separated and segregated, not just with racism, with everything, with religion. If you don't belong to a certain party, if you don't belong to a certain religion, then you're not part of.
And listen, we all have tribes and communities, but in order to really make a change, we need to be able to let those walls down, right? And really see each other and really be there for each other. And part of that is, and what I hate sometimes is people trying to be practical about it, really try to look at it from all angles. Let's look at this race issue from all angles. And it's How many angles is there to look at? It's either this is right and this is wrong. Like, that's like the lamest thing I've ever seen. Like, how long are you going to take looking at all these angles? Are you going to do like a PhD on all the angles of racism before you do anything about it?
No, absolutely. So what is your position on taking down the monuments of some of our former leaders that
Yeah, as a Jew, and I think some people said it best, like in Germany, they don't have statues of Nazis. They have statues of the people that survived, memorials of the survivors. So it's like, and why are we so attached to these things anyway? Art is not meant to be forever. You know what I mean? Like, and why can't we listen? If something hurts a group of people or anyone for that matter, why am I have that much pride in it that I an attachment to it that I can't take it down? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. That does not make sense to me at all.
No, I agree with you. We are allowing history to get on the way of progress. A history written by a few and chosen.
Yeah, and listen, those names will be remembered, but they'll be remembered in history books talking about the horrors and what they did to to humanity and a group of people. We don't need to have huge statues commemorating them and celebrating them. No, I don't get why we are so scared to create a shift and to make people feel seen and heard. I don't know why. I don't even know what there is to support an argument like that, besides the fact that you are so attached to something that's not even yours. Like, you didn't, and even if this person was your family member, okay, like whatever, and in the end they did something bad and their name will be remembered, just not in the way that you, I guess, have been connected to them as.
Absolutely. History is rewritten every day, every single day.
I know, and we're in the eye of the storm. We are part of history right now, and so once again, I would hope some of those people who are against all this or who are fighting against these things will know that in 50 to 100 years, when there's a museum about what happened, their quotes, names, and viral videos going against all this stuff will be there documented. Oh, and at that point, will their families will they've been proud about their actions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a different kind of history that we're accustomed to. Okay, but everything, this conversation, every post that we make, every quote that we post on the internet, everything that we do is part of the new history, and I don't see why we can't see it that way. Let's talk about your show. Let's talk about your radio show. Let's go there.
Yeah. Oh, Let's Go There. We go there on topics in pop culture, news, social issues. It's on the first LGBTQ plus music talk station called Channel Q. We're syndicated on radio stations across the country, and we stream live on radio.com daily. And yeah, it's been such a blessing because we, 3 hours a day, we're talking about what's happening. And, even 2 years ago when we launched this is before it was, hot to have uncomfortable conversations. That's what our show is based on. I'm a white Jewish Canadian. My co-host is a Black queer Southern man. And together we have different perspectives. We grew up differently, but yeah, we're able to meet each other in the middle. And we have a lot of love for each other, but, we'll definitely agree on things. We don't agree on certain things. And we approach everything, even the complicated things, with love and understanding as we navigate these spaces, which is so needed right now.
Absolutely. Now, where will you be 5 years from now? Have you thought about that?
I mean, I feel like someone... I feel like when I read a lot of Buddhism or, some sort of spiritual gurus, whenever they say that, they're like, I don't think about that because I just try to make the most of now. Presence is key. Yeah, because I don't know, like I could say where I'm going to be at, but even that is a limitation in and of itself. To say where I think I'm going to be is limiting based on what I know life is and my perception of life right now. So
that's the kind of talk I like. I love it.
So when I say that even to myself, yes, I create goals. I visualize, I put, a list down of things I want to accomplish. But even with that, I have an awareness of even that's limited. So, hey, I'm aware that I see this, but I'm open to so much more.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what do you see? What do you see? What do you see 3 years down the road?
Love. No, I would love for us all to really understand ourselves, love others, have the tools to do that inner work, make it accessible for everyone. Because I do believe it starts with that. There's a lot of trauma in this world, in our country. And if we can normalize and mainstream all of the spiritual personal growth tools out there, then people can realize that they have what it takes to be their best selves and that they are worthy of everything that they dream of.
Sure, there is a lot of drama in the world today, but I think it's only because we're experiencing a lot of disruption. We're breaking through taboos and limited beliefs and cultural conditioning that have never been touched.
Yeah,
I think one of the great benefits of COVID-19 was the ability to give us all a moment to pause and reflect and realize that, you're right. I can plan for 5 years ahead, but I was just shown that can be taken away immediately. Doesn't matter.
Also, if we're also focused on that, like such a goal-oriented society, then we actually create excuses to not treat ourselves and each other properly in the present. Because you see, if I have this goal and I want to get there, I will do anything to get there.
Yeah, I got to torpedo you.
Walk over people, compete with you. And you could say that where we're at because of that mentality. So, I'm not going to subscribe to that notion that we should just be this goal-oriented society, because it hasn't gotten us anywhere in those goals.
But we still exhibit a lot of that in social media. I mean, if I get on and we become the common of the five people we run around with, right? We become the total of the five people we run around with. And if I go to my social media channel, I'm going to see probably Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, David Meltzer, Jay Shady, Lewis House, and so on. They're going to tell me I got to 10x it, I got to work hard, I got to do this, I got to keep going, I can't pause. This is time to create. Is that really what we want to do, or is it time to reflect and lay back, analyze, do a self-inventory?
See, this is something I talk about a lot, and I feel like I will write a book about this at a certain point. Because I was, listen, I'm all about the hustle. Gary Vee always told me, and even Mark Cuban was like, you hustle more than anyone else. And I took pride in that. I was like, yeah. I took pride in that until I realized that I didn't know who I was. And I was like, I didn't even know what I was hustling for. It was just like I was a bit lost. And I think it's a balance between, the hustle and the flow. And for me, it's like, how do you create a soul sustainable lifestyle, right? Which means there is a time and place to hustle, and there's a time and place to stop down and reflect it. But you need to even know yourself well enough to know when you need to do that. And if you're so busy hustling, a lot of times it's about acquisition of things outside of you. It causes you to not even know who you are or what you need. So it's like, that is also like as I said, the squirrel on the wheel, the hamster on the wheel. That's the hamster on the wheel mentality. And that's not to say that you shouldn't have goals and intentions and expectations for yourselves and know that are steps that you need to take to get there. But it's also saying that like, what's good for me might not be good for you. Like how I do things, like I know how I eat food, or like, how much sleep I need, even though they say you need like 8 hours sleep a day, but like, creating these rules, this rule book around how all of us should be, and it means that we all need to do it the same way, is crazy, because then it forces people to do things against how they actually should be doing things for themselves. And then you're actually hindering people's growth because they're not getting to know what's best for them. Of course, you could create like, inspiration and aspiration. But I think that it's really about saying like, okay, here's some guidelines, but we're going to create guidelines so that you could play. And in your play, you get to figure out what's great for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best example of a tailor fit for all is our current educational system. It doesn't work for everybody. Everybody has different levels of learning. Everybody has different aspirations. Everybody has different intelligence level. You know, we're all the same, but we're not all equal.
Yeah, I also think that it could lead you towards disappointment, because if you feel like there's some days you just can't do it, and like, of course, that's why they explain it to the extreme so they could push you, right? It's just like a trainer. When I go to the gym, I'm not going to the gym for my trainer to be like, oh, today you're not in the mood. Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. Like, I'm going there so that he can beat my ass and like get me in shape. So I see the benefit of these models and this positioning, definitely. And I love those guys, everyone you're talking about. I just think, and Gary Vee has talked about it. He's like, I haven't just said like, just kill yourself over your work. At the same time, and I love Gary, I've never heard him talk about his wife or his kid, kind of like getting really vulnerable and personal. I would love to see Gary do that, a bit more of that, because all the guys following him,
I would love to have that interview.
I'll do the interview too, but like all the guys following him, you know what they need? Some of those guys, vulnerability. They can barely have conversations with their loved ones because they're, on deadlines and working so much. And, that's all, they're thinking about the hustle so much that they're not connecting with life.
Absolutely. And you know what, talking to that point right there, Grant Cardone talks about 10X and everybody, but he has his family with him everywhere he goes. So there's almost like a more vulnerable, more humane persona in Grant Cardone that I see on Gary Vee. And I love Gary Vee, and I have the utmost respect for what
That's his choice. And you know what? His family might not want to be in the picture, and you have to respect their privacy.
Sure,
it's more, I don't care. I don't need to see his family picture. I want to know from him how he does it all. Cause I can barely do it all and have time for myself. And I don't even have kids, and I don't have a partner right now. So it's like, how do you have companies? How do you push out that much content? I know he has a great support staff and team. And how do you give real time to your family and your partner? I would love that perspective, because right now I feel like some women are more honest about that. Some men aren't as much. And I think it would really help other men out there.
Well, sure. I mean, I think although we have made a lot of progress with men's vulnerability, I think there's still a lot of machismo and a lot of posturing from men in the business world, in the entrepreneurial world, because I think that being seen any other way, there's a perception that we may not be as successful, that we may not be as strong, that we may not be as driven, if we show any of that vulnerability.
You know who does it? I like, even though I don't know if he does, but like, who I love? Scooter Braun.
Yes. Yes.
And he doesn't even like
David Meltzer. David Meltzer does it really well too, from your area.
Listen, there are people that do it. I just think we are right now in a time that we need to be pushing for definitely thinking outside the box of your life and your passions, but also taking care of yourself, because all that can't even happen if you're drowning right here. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
So let's talk about the future. This would be my last question. What does the future look like? I mean, we know that office spaces, we know it probably is not going to come back.
Yeah.
The malls, as we know it, probably are not going to come back. Outdoor events, sport events, all kinds of stuff as we knew it is not coming back. How do you see the world in the next 12 months?
I mean, it changes every week, it seems. I think we need to think outside the box. Like I said, I think we need to focus on innovation and solutions. We can go in circles as to like what we're missing and how it won't be the same. I just don't think that's productive. It's not going to lead to anything. It's going to keep us stuck and like attached. And so I think we need to just accept where we're at, and it could go back. It might not, it could change. And like, I hope companies really focus on the mental health of their companies and their employees and the culture that they're creating. And I hope they're not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And that means shifting things completely in terms of what they're creating and how they're bringing it to consumers, but also how they're doing it. I think we're in a time of like a reckoning, and I think we need to be excited about it, even though it's heavy, and we need to move forward and create action around it, because like, you know, once again, it's about getting back to business as usual, but we're not in business as usual. So enough with that frickin' saying business as usual. We're in a new wave. So let's embrace it and let's find joy in it, while also being respectful to each other and loving to each other and being there for one another in a real way.
Shira Lazar on Come and Clean Podcast. Where can people find you? You're hilarious. I love you. You're hilarious.
Thanks. I was like, I think that's an answer. Half the times, I mean, like, I know what I'm talking about, but I'm also just like going with the flow.
Where can people find you?
At Shira Lazar everywhere on social media. And then you can find all the links to my radio show there, what's trending, and PeaceInside.Live, which is a platform that I'm building around mindfulness, meditation, and movement. And finding inner peace, literally and figuratively, during these uncertain times.
Shira, thank you so much. Enjoy having you.
Thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Coming Clean podcast. Make sure to join Peter and his next guest on a brand new episode as we continue changing and impacting lives across the world. Share this episode with a friend, follow, subscribe, and leave a review.
Boy, I had to get it fast. Hit a dash in my position.